guys, welcome back to the next part of the series. Today we're going to continue with the subdivision conversion, and this is a very important step that we need to do because now we're going to jump into polish. And we've explained this before, but I'm just going to go over it real quick. When we're working with Dynamesh, as what we can see right here, one of the problems that we normally have with Dynamesh is the fact that the way that our little squares are organized do not let themselves work nicely with subdivisions. Another thing is later on posing could be potentially difficult if we don't have things again organized. So I'm going to press Control and the Shift to select this hand right here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say split and split hidden. So now our body and the hands are separate meshes. I'm going to Dynamesh, of course, and we get this very cool piece right here. I'm going to use trim dynamic, and I'm just going to trim this down. Remember, this is going to be hidden by the armor and everything else, so no real need to worry. And if we need to, we can just extend it until it meets the hand, and we're going to be fine. And now what we want to do is we want to convert all of these things that we have right here into a mesh that's going to be able to be subdivided. So I'm going to show you a process that we're going to be using on all of the pieces, and it's very handy. So first, let's clean as much as we can. The cleaner the shapes, the easier this whole process is going to be. Once we have things clean, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to duplicate this mesh. And on one of these meshes, you can pick whichever one you want. On one of these meshes, I'm going to go to the option under geometry that's called ZRemesher. Now, I'm using version 23.2 of ZBrush, and it has a thing in ZRemesher where you can retry the ZRemeshing thing. I don't think we're really going to do it because we're not looking for animation ready topology. We're just looking for cleaner topology. So I'm going to just ZRemesh. And as you can see, oh, remeshing aborted. Let's Dynamesh real quick and try again. There we go. So once ZRemesh does its magic and it analyzes the surface, it's going to create loops and in a nicer, more like a traditional topology all around the character. And what we see right here, I think this is good enough. We can later on change it if we need to, but this one right here looks very nice. Unfortunately, we did lose a lot of detail, right? We went from over here 137,000 points to only 10,000 points. So what we need to do now is I need to press Control D one time, let's say 2 times, so that we get as close as possible. It doesn't matter if you go over or if you're a little bit under, and we're gonna project all of these details to this guy right here. So let's get out of Dynamic Solo. I'm gonna press Shift and click on this little eye icon, and that way when we go to this guy, we can see only these 2 elements. We select the low poly version, which is this Oni 008 in my case, and I'm gonna go to Project and Project All. And I'm gonna say, has polypaint? Yes, let's project the polypaint. And there we go. So now, once we do this, we can turn off the original one. And this, as you can see, has pretty much all of the information that we had before, but it's a lot more optimized. And not only that, as you can see, when we move the camera around, it goes down to the lowest subdivision and then it updates to the highest one. And the reason why that's important is because it's going to be very easy for us to be able to switch between subdivision levels and keep things optimized. When you're working with Dynamesh, everything is very dense, and especially if you're working on a low-end computer with not a lot of RAM, that could potentially be a problem. You can also see now that, for instance, the way that the line here underneath the pectoral muscle flows is very clean. So as we start polishing all of this area, we're going to have a really clean division because, again, the points right there flow in the direction of the pectoral, opposed to these ones right here that are just flowing like crazy everywhere. Okay, so that's the subdivision process right there. Now, for instance, the face. The face is another one where we're also going to be doing this process. But the face needs to have a specific loops that are going to be a little bit easier for us to work with, again, based on how we normally animate a character. So when we're working with something like the face, we're also going to duplicate here. Oh, by the way, this one right here, the old one, we don't need it anymore, so I'm just going to delete. And we're going to keep the clean one. So here on the face, the one thing that's going to change a little bit is that we're going to be using something called ZRemesher guides. If you press B under brushes, all the way down here, we got this ZRemesher guides. And the way this works is that they will draw, or we can use them to draw a curve. Remember the curve brushes that we talked about? We can draw a curve around things. So for instance, the mouth and the eyes. And we're pretty much going to tell ZRemesher to try to follow these curves as nicely as possible. For instance, we can draw one here. We can draw, let's say, one here around the ear. We can draw one around the horns so that we have a nice clean edge loop around the horns. We can draw, let's say, another one here around the eyes, kind of like a mask. I like to call that the Batman mask. There we go. And yeah, so by adding all of these curves, now if we go to ZRemeshing here on geometry and we go to ZRemesh, we can push the curve strength up quite a bit. And Of course, did we duplicate this? We didn't, so let's duplicate. Let's go back to this one. And in this one right here, once we got, again, the curve strength high, we can say see remesh. And what this will do, thanks to the fact that curve strength is up, is going to try to catch that curvature with the see remeshing polygons. Let's take a look at this guy, and look at that. Beautiful loops here around the eyes. We might have some spirals like in certain elements, so don't trust this topology like perfectly all the time, but it should give us a very clean like topology that's going to be a lot easier to sculpt. Now we're going to have the same issue with this one. We need to project all of the amazing details that we had before. So 288,000 points. Let's go to this one. The analogy I like to use is like a bucket of water. So we have a really big bucket of water and we made it a lot tinier. So we need to expand this so that we can fill all of the details in. So I'm going to press Control D one time, two times. That should be more than enough. As you can see, we're pretty close, only a couple of thousand or 100,000. That's fine, because otherwise we're going to go really high. We're going to go to like 800,000. So this should be more than enough. And we turn both of them on, and we go to project and project all. Yes, let's project the polyplane as well. So it's breadth, and there we go. So let's turn this off, and that's it. So we're back to our original effect, but now we got the big advantage of having clean topology. And for instance, especially when we start adding things such as the wrinkles, as you can see here, actually, let me smooth this one more time. You can see the wrinkles here are gonna flow a lot more smoothly along the surface than on this guy right here, where they look a little bit pixelated because, again, the flow of the polygons is not perfect. And you could argue that, hey, what about increasing the Dynamesh resolution? Well, we're already quite high, 784. So we will need to go really high, and that, again, becomes a little bit more complicated to work with. So we just delete that one, and there we go. Let's, of course, get rid of those wrinkles. And that's it. Now, for the hands, we're going to do something a little bit interesting. On the hands, let's go to the Dynamic Solo. Let's Dynamesh real quick. And one of the first things that I'm going to notice is that we have this like webbing effect. We don't want that webbing effect. That's going to make things a little bit difficult to work with. Also, all of these points that we have right here, all of this like non-manifold geometry that we get from the closing of the hose is also bad. So I'm going to Dynamesh. There we go. And those, easiest way to solve that is with Move Brush. Just move them down really close to the hand. And then we are going to increase the resolution a little bit. So when we Dynamesh, we don't get as much of that effect. There we go. We're going to be like polishing and cleaning things up. So if you guys remember, oh my God, what happened to the thumb? Let's repair this real quick. There we go. So let's just bring the volume back there for the thumb. Still looks a little bit wonky. So we're going to do something very similar to what we did with the feet. We want to have like proper topology on all of this, guys. So I'm going to go again to B and my C remeshing guides, and you can actually create some very nice guides. So for instance, I'm going to create a guide that goes this way. These are not animation guides, but they are a good way to help the whole thing like find the proper topology. So for instance, that loop, let's do another loop right there. And for the fingers, if you start drawing a line and then press shift, you're going to generate a ring. It takes a little bit longer sometimes, especially when it's trying to find the element. If it doesn't work, don't worry. Oh, come on, ZBrush. Don't crash now. No, please. Give me 1 second. Okay, it did work, but as you can see, it tried to go across all the fingers. That's fine. Usually, shapes like this, cylindrical shapes, are easy for C remesher to figure out, but sometimes you get spirals, and spirals can be quite tricky to work with, but let's give it a shot. So I'm going to go over here. Of course, we're going to duplicate this, guys. Let's go back to the previous ones. There we go. And we're going to go geometry, and let's push the curve strength up and C remesh. And let's see what we get. There you go. So not bad. Not bad at all. You can see a nice little uniform there for the fingers. We might have what's the word? We might have spirals. How do you check for spirals? If you go to C Modeler and you try to insert an edge loop and it goes around multiple elements, that means that there's a spiral. But in this case, there doesn't seem to be one. So, oh, there's one right there. Is there? Yeah, so that one right there, you can see that's a spiral. Again, it's not the end of the world having spirals. Like it's fine. We can deal with them. Just keep in mind that they can be annoying. Like that's something that you don't want to have on your, let's say, on your animation meshes. Now, another thing I see there is that little like horrible thing right there. So I'm gonna smooth things out. Actually, let me go back. And there seems to be some sort of like let's Dynamesh real quick. There we go, to clean that a little bit there. And now let's see remesh. Now we really don't have any detail on this hand, so there's really no big need to clean things. It's fine. So we can just keep this mesh, to be honest. Let's go over here. This one's right here. Let's just delete. Again, we really don't have any big elements, and let's isolate, and there we go. So we're gonna have our hands right here. And as we start adding more subdivisions, Control D, we're gonna be able to start sculpting and polishing all of the details. You can, like that area right there, let's just smooth it. And as you can see, that gets a clean effect. And look at how nicer it is to sculpt on a clean mesh than it was to sculpt on the Dynamesh. So that's why this process of converting, not everything, but most of the things into subdivision is really, really, really important. I'm gonna go all the way down. I'm gonna turn off the belts. Let's turn off the pants, the handles. There we go, because I want to see this connection right here. I'm gonna go to the arm, and I am gonna use just my move brush. Oh, let's just use our move brush here to push this into the arm socket so that they're together. Again, this is mainly for silhouette purposes, to make sure that everything is nice and clean. But from a production standpoint, we do want to have things separate so that we can control the resolution of the hands separate from the body, which is not going to need as much. So yeah, that's pretty much it, my friends. And as you can see, we have a very, very cool character right here. Let's turn off all of these things so that we can see just the clay render. And if we do a very quick best preview render or quick render, we're gonna have this right here. So yeah, that's pretty much for it for this one, my friends. In the next one, we're gonna start polishing, and we're gonna pretty much follow the same process that we did before. So polish of the chest, polish of the arms, polish of the back, polish of the face, and I'm gonna be teaching you like a lot more information about each specific muscle and each specific part, so that we get a very nice character. So get to this point, make sure to clean your subdivisions, and I'll see you back on the next video.